Hey guys, Tarke here, and I wanted to talk about the 3.15 teaser we had. A lot of people have been focusing on not very interesting information like new skills and gameplay. Boring. I'm far more interested in these four NPCs, and I think that if you are trying to speculate or predict things about the new league, these would be the four people to focus on. I think it's a pretty interesting set of characters, which all seem to have a series of themes that work well together, but also kind of conflict, which is interesting, and that suggests different things about the gameplay. The fact that it's four NPCs is also very notable. Generally, when we get a new league mechanic with an NPC, we get one NPC that's kind of just like our guide throughout it. Obviously, there are some exceptions to this, for example, stuff like Heist and stuff like Betrayal. But again, four is an interesting number because it's a small sort of band of individuals, so they could be quite heavily personified. They could get some interesting dialogue, and maybe be sort of thing where are we working with all of them at the same time? Are we working with them individually? Are we getting different kinds of gameplay from different individual members? But let's kind of break them down one by one. So this guy, I think, is very clearly the merchant of the league. If we zoom in on him a little bit, why is he the merchant of the league? He literally has a chest on his waist. He's also wearing rings and is more ornately dressed, has a walking stick compared to the others who don't really have that same level of like pomp about them. So yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say this is the merchant NPC. Also, if we use my very helpful art degree and we were to break down the way they are standing, he's slightly set aside from the group. He's still part of the group, but he's definitely not as unified as these three, which again further suggests that he is more of a merchant type to the others. You could also make the argument that like his stuff is a bit more saturated, but he's also closer to the light source in the image, so it could just be a coinky dink. There's no such thing as a coinky dink when you've got a pre-made piece of art that someone made, but that could just be why he has a little bit more like, you know, red to him, and the blacks are blacker, whereas these are more like muddy. However, saying that, if you were to compare the outfits of these three, while they're being presented as a group, with obviously two stood behind the leading figure at the front, their individual outfits kind of clash a little bit, which suggests that they kind of came together through necessity rather than we've always been together for the longest possible time. And if they have always been together for the longest possible time, then maybe they're trying to hold on to some remnants of their lives before, or there was like no unified thing and the artist just kind of like went whatever. So this guy, I very much get the vibe of kind of like a deserter from the army or a retired soldier, just from the way he's presented. Since you've got a mix of what looks like a pretty expensive ornamental chest plate and then a spiked gauntlet and furs, like it's a bit of an interesting mismatch. Also a random headband, and headbands is things that you tend to see with a lot of like the ex-army types. This guy on the side, however, seems like he's kind of been like a tracker or a poacher his whole life. He's covered in scars, which look like claw marks. He's got a metal leg, ripped up face. He's got the top knot going on. It kind of sort of screams stereotypical wild poachery beast hunter type. So that's kind of the vibe I get from this one. While this lady, interestingly enough, even though she's very much part of the group through the positioning, her outfit doesn't really match at all. If this guy's got an ex-army theme, perhaps she could be aligned with that as well. But from the outfit, it looks more higher class, it looks more expensive. You've got this ornate belt buckle, I would assume. Possibly a similar skull motif, but that seems more like a brooch. You've got like more of an expensive doublet on. Again, more just like better maintained everything. The sword looks like it's got some like tassely thing on the end of it, but more kind of tattered. So perhaps it kind of leans into this like wild bunch of poachers or whatever, or hunters. But yeah, it's kind of it's interesting that they seem to have very different backgrounds. And again, like the outfit of this guy is very different. So the image I'm kind of getting is people who are together by necessity more so than choice. And they've each got their individual skills. Yeah. So what could be interesting and I would quite enjoy is if we had a league mechanic of us working against a group. I think that'd be pretty fun. We don't really have many mechanics like that. You could sort of say Betrayal is like us versus a rival faction. But I feel like that kind of got confused a bit with all the mastermind stuff, and I feel like the execution of that wasn't the best. Like Betrayal I enjoy a lot, but I didn't really ever get the identity of I'm competing seriously with this group. They just are like extra monsters. So if we could have a league mechanic where it's like we're trying to do something and at the same time these guys are trying to do something and it's kind of like we're actually competing to achieve the same goal, I think that could be really fun. I actually like had a really dumb idea for a league, which was basically that sort of idea. And it was about like it was an archaeology themed thing, and you are competing with another guy to steal artifacts. And at first, he's kind of like, oh, help me with this thing. And then you steal the treasure, and he's like, bruh. And then every time you encounter him, he gets more and more frustrated. And then your relationship becomes more and more hostile, and then you get a big boss fight and whatever. I think it could be pretty fun to have a antagonistic band we're working against, and seeing them all like have their set purpose and they mesh well together, because there's only 4 of them. With Betrayal, there were so many, and there was the issue with all their dialogue lines shouting over each other. It was hard to really form individual bonds and rivalries, because as soon as you're like, oh, that guy was annoying, then you just get like 12 other dudes thrown at you, and you don't see that guy again. So, yeah. Things which could maybe suggest that these are not necessarily the good guys. My dude literally has a skull on his crotch. General rule of thumb, when you have skulls on your uniform, you might be the bad guy. So yes, I don't think it'll be that way though. While I would like that, I think it's far more likely that this is the new band of buddies that we'll team up with and go on fun missions with, either individually or with all of them all at once. I would imagine it's going to be more of an exploration-based league. The reason why I think this will be more of an exploration-based league, we've had a lot of leagues which are just you do thing in small enclosed area. It's been a while since we've had like a you go and explore this big thing, or you go to this big extra zone. We had a lot of leagues which were you go clear other zone. And we had so many, we kind of got frustrated with them and we said, GG, stop giving us those. But we haven't had one of those kind of league mechanics for a while. So, yeah. Overall, I am intrigued. I'm a lot more intrigued seeing 4 NPCs than 1. If I was to do a drip thick rating, I'd probably have this one rank 1, mostly because of the fancy belt. Then I'd probably go for the merchant at 2. It's quite close between the merchant and this guy for rank 2. This guy for 3. And this guy last, just because he's got a lot of mismatch going on, which doesn't really make sense. Like, the ensemble outfit is kind of all over the place. And I really am not a fan of this spiked pauldron, which seems very out of place. Looks like it's got another skull on the side here, actually, now that I zoom in. Yeah, I'm just generally not a fan of the whole edgy Skullman thing. But, yeah. I'm Tarke. Have a good day. What do you think about 3.15, by the way? And, yeah, watch another YouTuber break down the 4 skills that we know nothing about. Bye-bye.